As the sun sets. Yoshi was battered and exhausted, and he fell to his knees. Rise stated how impressed he was that he was able to beat him alone. Don't be. You and Lady Fu have done the same. I won't be looked down on by you. Rise remembered when Daisuyo said something similar after beating Tsunami. He also remembered Wanoji, after that battle, missing an arm but upset about Kichiyo and Shigi's death. He wondered how Kanto's perspective could be so different. He wondered why Kanto would risk his life and the lives of others in pursuit of vengeance and in the name of the Onika. His mind was starting to dwell. He looked at Orochi, and then he looked at Amana and Shursui. Every sword had a story and was related to a source of his suffering. Fu interrupted him. Hey, didn't Yoshi sound just like Daisuyo for a second? Do you remember the ice bridge battle? Rise smiled in secret and answered, not really. That was 5 years ago, and we have many things to do now. Fu smiled in return, too, as if they were sharing something special the others were unaware of. Then, V.T headed back to town for some rest. Soon they would venture to find the sun goddess, Amaterasu. They expected resistance from the townspeople for defeating Susanoo. Instead, they were treated as heroes. Yoshi would speak to the locals as an avatar of Susanoo, and everyone in VT was interviewed. Rise would tell stories, and Fu enjoyed a brief time as a celebrity. Suzuki told many telltales to the local women in an attempt to woo them. Kengo, for his part, trained diligently to improve his skills with Bufu. Suzuki would often join him to learn more about Hokage, while Rise and Yoshi would train with Susanoo and Orochi. Rise learned a partial trance where he could turn his arms into snakes. With this, he could stretch them and have them move in inhuman ways. Yoshi couldn't use Susanoo's power and Tsunami's trance simultaneously, but he did learn to switch between them rapidly. For the next month, the town treated them like royalty as they trained and recovered. Meanwhile, in Nikko, the brightest city. A pale figure with bright fair skin and long hair flowing just inches from the ground, small feminine hands and long sharp fingernail looks towards Yomi, the darkest city. She calls for people to gather in her throne room. A strong young man with spiked hair comes running, while a fair young-looking woman with blonde hair slowly approaches the throne. Several men with armor and swords kneel before the throne. Before the kneeling knights, almost to the point of bowing, was a young man. The young woman crossed her arms and glared at the throne while he appeared bothered by his sister's disrespect for it. However, he remained kneeling, anxious to hear why this congregation was assembled. Besides, he was eager to serve. He blurted out, "Glorious Mother Amaterasu. How can I help you?" Amaterasu smiled as she stood up. She addressed him. "Rise, Ninigi Minamoto, my powerful son. You will soon have a chance to prove your might." She glared at the young woman and continued, "You too may actually be of some use, at last, Princess Himiko Minamoto. I know that sounds impossible, but I have found a way to rid ourselves of that horrible dark monster Tsukuyomi." Kanto Taira and the rest of WMS entered the room. 2 friends, 2 foes. 36 days after the Battle of Mtokami, 2 swordsmen in straw hats came to Musashi. Kengo was sparring with Suzuki, and they were attempting to enter the trance. Fu, Rise, and Yoshi were planning coordinated attacks in the same training ground. When the 2 dark figures approached, Kengo was the first to recognize them. He kneeled and greeted them as his mentors. Rise teleported to them and attempted a greeting. "I remember you guys. You're the Jinzo brothers. I remember you from the exam. Yukon and Sakon, right?" Kengo sighed and apologized for Rise's lack of knowledge. He then proceeded to introduce them. "No, they are the Jinnai brothers, Yukio and Sakio." Sakio spoke, "Thank you for the introduction. However, we have urgent news from Sonoto IGA." He then handed a scroll to Fu. She opened and read it, clearly appearing very surprised by its contents. Meanwhile in Nikko, Amaterasu was arranging a deal. She would marry Himiko to Kanto. In exchange, WMS would seal Tsukuyomi. Amaterasu had amassed an army to fight Tsukuyomi so that in 3 days, they would march on Yomi, and the Sun and Moon War would commence in earnest. The contents of Sonoto's letter had already predicted that outcome. Yoshi addressed VT. We can't let Kanto gain control of Tsukuyomi. We also can't let Amaterasu join WMS. We head for Nikko immediately. Fu was curious about something and took the chance to ask. Does Amaterasu have children? She is an Onika. I've only ever heard of Onika spawning ninja. A crane flew to them then, and Zwasi appeared almost immediately after. He regained his human form and explained. I can tell you the reason why. About 30 years ago, Amaterasu traveled to Tenchu and met with Ichiban. She informed him of her own fascination with mortals. She wanted one, so she struck a deal with him. He would give her one of his children, lest she burn the capital. Even Ichiban wasn't strong enough to beat Amaterasu, and so he agreed. The only issue was that Shinto, his most recent son, had recently died of old age. So he had no living children at the time. Amaterasu had a solution. She threw herself onto Ichiban, and together they rectified the situation. Amaterasu would become pregnant and give birth to mortal twins. Ninigi and Himiko were born, and she gave them the surname Minamoto. Ninigi is very loyal and grateful to his mother, and she adores him. On the other hand, Himiko despises her, and in return, Amaterasu considers her a waste of potential. In short, the Minamoto twins are your half-siblings, Lady Fu. I suspect you will meet them soon. Fu was, at the very least, disturbed by this revelation. An awkward meeting. Zwasi explained that war was coming. Soon Amaterasu's army, WMS, the Minamoto, and Hikari, a light-based kami that served under Amaterasu, would battle against Tsukuyomi and his underlings, Yami and Yomi. Fu was concerned. The last war they were involved in was devastating. Human forces were clashing with 2 Onika to a stalemate. Now, this included 2 of the most powerful Onika, several lesser ones, WMS, and the rest of their armies. Fu remembered Kichiyo and Shigi. She was worried about Kengo and Suzuki, as she figured they could very possibly die in this upcoming war. Zwasi approached Fu and handed her a card. On it was written, "Use this if you think you are going to lose one." She asked how to use it, but she received no response. Rise exclaimed it was time for them to move on. Despite her reservations, she proceeded silently, hoping to avoid unnecessary tragedy. Upon their departure, Zwasi shuffled his deck, drew the top card, and smiled. When they arrived outside of the city, a bright yellow being of light greeted them. Hikari couldn't speak, so instead, he gestured for them to follow him to the palace. The interior of the castle was elegant, in a red and white theme. Several statues of kami lined the hallways. They arrived in a large room with a huge red throne. Seated on it was none other than Amaterasu, goddess of the sun. Yoshi blurted out, "Susanoo says to stop the charade because you are not fooling anyone." Then he said to call you Shiner. Amaterasu laughed and asked, "Can my dear baby brother hear me?" Yoshi nodded in affirmation. Amaterasu continued, "Shut up, Sparky. I'm entertaining my guests." Rise asked why the nickname. Correcting him for asking nonsense at such a time, Fu slapped him on the head and inquired instead, "Why did you invite us here?" Amaterasu rose and replied, "I have invited you here for an opportunity, and to inform you about Tsukuyomi." Fu stared her down and gestured for her to continue. Meanwhile, noticing that Himiko was glaring at her, Amaterasu continued, "I want you to help me seal Tsukuyomi. I already hired your rivals, the warriors. I gave them Himiko as payment." Himiko interrupted her abruptly. "I am not your pawn. I only agreed to take that half-wit's hand because it implies I can escape this prison. I will never inherit anything anyway because you're an immortal witch. Why do I have to remain confined here for the rest of my days? Amaterasu's eyes glowed bright, so bright that it immediately impaired everyone's vision in the room. Her clothes caught fire. As her temper flared, her body heat increased to the point where water started to evaporate in the throne room. She raised her hand and spoke. You would be smart to remember, girl. I own you, and I made you. With a snap of my fingers, I could remove you from this plane as fast as I brought you to it. Amaterasu calmed down then, and Kengo activated Sub-Zero to cool the room. Yoshi refreshed himself with a water shot from Tsunami, and seeing that, Risei asked for some water. Yoshi sprayed him in the face, which Suzuki laughed. Amaterasu apologized for Himiko's disrespect and her own outburst. Yoshi couldn't contain himself. He spoke, trying his hardest not to look at Amaterasu. Ahem. I'm just going to say it. You burned your robe off. You are completely undressed. Fu spoke up as well. I wasn't going to call attention to it, but... Kengo didn't seem to mind, while Suzuki couldn't stop staring. Risei, however, was too busy drying his shirt. Amaterasu laughed and spoke. How could I forget you humans and your ideas of modesty? I'm sorry if my body offended you. Suzuki interrupted, saying he supported her freedom, but Fu immediately silenced him. Risei noticed Amaterasu was exposed, and he fabricated a robe and offered it to her. As the goddess redressed up, Fu asked Risei why he never told her he could make clothes, to which he replied he didn't know he could do that before. Day and night. With a regained composure, Amaterasu addressed VT. Now that my daughter has learned her manners, let us begin. I want you to fight Tsukuyomi with me. I offered my daughter as a bride to the warriors, so to you, I offer my son Ninigi as an ally. He is skilled in combat, and his power rivals your own. Besides, he is the brother of Lady Fu, thus giving you a second legitimate claim to the throne of humanity. Yoshi asked, and what if we refuse? Unfazed, Amaterasu pointed her finger at a fully armored guard and sent a beam of light at him, incinerating him instantly. You don't understand how much stronger we are. I created the sun. I control its power. Light and heat are mine. With a simple wave of my hand, the sun explodes, and all life will perish. Tsukuyomi, in protest, used his power to form the moon. He controls gravity and darkness. With a wave of his hand, the world could end as well. I simply wish to see him sealed away. If after that you wish to fight me, so be it. I promise you I want to see Tsukuyomi fall more than I care if I fall. She paused a second before pressing on. I have someone else I'd like you to meet. My oldest son, Ganda. The palace shook as a familiar form drew closer. A giant man, skin dark as a stone, a bald head, and a giant set of prayer beads on his chest, approached. It was Ganda Shimazu. Risei teleported to him and said, Hey Ganda. I remember you, you were the proctor's little brother. Big, dumb, and so buff. I was afraid you could kill me with the simple touch of a finger. Risei laughed, but Ganda glared at him and said, I could. Risei laughed nervously and stopped. Fu asked him, Sir Ganda, how did you get that X-shaped wound on your chest? Ganda hung his head in shame and answered, Onikage kill brother Hotaro. Onikage kill King Ichiban. Ganda tried crush Onikage. Onikage too strong, break Ganda hand, cut Ganda deep. Mother save Ganda, Ganda oh mother. V.T was surprised Ganda survived a one-on-one with Onikage. Amaterasu spoke, Ganda, my oldest son, isn't very bright, but his body is unbreakable. It took a lot for Onikage to harm him. He had to use his wings and his sword. Risei interrupted her immediately. I will do whatever you ask. We need Ganda to join us. Fu was surprised by this outburst. Risei, are you seriously just going to bow to her demands? Rise nodded. Without an Onika, he fought Onikage and lived. I can't think of a better addition to V.T. Amaterasu smiled, so Fu turned to her and asked, if Gonda is your son, does that make him my brother as well? Amaterasu replied, no. His father was a regular man, that is why I needed Ichiban. Gonda is a blessing. But he isn't what I wanted. Siblings. Amaterasu looked at Ninaji and smiled. I wanted a strong human child. Gonda was a failure, as was Himiko. Ninaji, however, is perfect. He's more powerful than Ichiban and fiercely loyal. The son of Jotaro Shimazu, Gonda became more kami than human. Himiko is more human than a kami, and Ninaji is a perfect mix. But, enough about my legacy. This will be the battle plan. Tsukuyomi has mobilized his army. The warriors are already on the way to confront him. But they will most likely fail. Ninaji and Hikari will lead my army. Gonda will go with you to face Tsukuyomi directly. Tsukuyomi has more troops, but Yomi is strange. I don't know how to explain it. Just stay away from him. The battle will start soon. You have to beat Tsukuyomi fast because he could destroy this world. Yoshi, or well, Susanoo, spoke to her. I'm not even physically there, but I can sense your tears. You fear for this world because of your children, that's why you are working with humans. To save yours. Amaterasu interrupted him. Not another word, Sanoo. I'm doing this because Tsukuyomi needs to be removed from this world. I hate him. He insults my very existence. Don't assume you know me. Yoshi apologized for allowing Susanoo to possess him. They began marching towards Yami. Ninaji gave a long-winded speech about his mother's glory and about how vile Tsukuyomi was. V.T largely ignored him and continued onwards. Yoshi asked Gonda if he was able to deal any damage to Onikage. Gonda responded, Onikage strong. Gonda break his arm. Onikage only gets stronger. Grow wings, break Gonda's arm. Yoshi told Rise, if we could get Gonda to hold Onikage, sealing him would be easy. Rise looked down and, in a shameful voice, whispered, I sealed Onikage. He broke out of the sword. Yoshi turned pale. Then how are we supposed to beat him? Fu interjected. Obviously, we need a stronger seal. But that's not the issue at hand. We need to figure out how to beat Tsukuyomi. He is so much stronger than anything we have fought. Kengo asked the Jinai brothers if they had ever seen Tsukuyomi, to which they responded that no, they had not. Suzuki said he looked like a skeleton wrapped in black, carrying a scythe. He is death incarnate. Rise asked what incarnate means, and when Fu was about to belittle him for his lack of knowledge, they finally took notice of Tsukuyomi's army. Amaterasu's army was in bright red. In contrast, Tsukuyomi's army was all black. The one leading the army of Tsukuyomi wasn't Yami as expected, however. My sister. Leading Tsukuyomi's army was Kantotera. At his sides, Rikimaru and Motohide. With them, a shadowy hooded figure standing behind Kanto. 3 new warriors stepped towards Amaterasu's forces. The first introduced himself as Reito Ebihara, a tall, pale man with long black hair. He carried a very long redwood bois staff. He spun it around, introducing it as Fukuro Kuju. As he did, several troops passed out. The next man walked forward and introduced himself as well. He was Shuzen Fujimori. A little man with short white hair then pointed at a bamboo fishing pole called ebisu. He swung it downward, and a huge torrent of water swept several troops away. The next man had strange hair and carried a biwa. He introduced himself as Yamesa Toda and yelled, "Listen to my girl, Benton, sing." He played his biwa, and sound waves blew troops away. The Sakiyo recognized 2 more warriors attacking the Amaterasu army. That's Kenshiro Kazama and Kazuhira Mira. They have become very popular bandits and are notoriously ruthless and murderous. Now they have Onika and have joined the warriors. Yukio seemed disturbed at this prospect. Kenshiro was wearing a very long red headband and was cutting through many armored and armed men effortlessly with a giant spear. He called it Tanbajiri. Kazuhiro was covering soldiers, a strange power emanating from his metal gauntlet. He yelled, "Kagetsuchi, Katsu," and the powder exploded, killing everyone touched by it. Risei appeared worried. Kanto has a full team now and an army. Hikari and Ninigi can't handle them alone. We have to split up. Yoshi and Fu, come with me. Everyone else, support Ninigi. He's one of us. We can't let him die. Ninigi engaged Kanto. Yamesa joined with Kenshiro and Kazuhira. Kengo confronted Yamesa, while Yukio and Sakio engaged the bandits. Gonda ran straight at Motohide and Rikimaru. Rado and Shuzen ran to aid them. Gonda was doing well until Motohide got behind him, ready to attack. Suddenly, his left shoulder was hit with a fire shot. He dropped his hammer. On a hill overlooking the battlefield, Suzuki said to himself, "That's for my cracked ribs." Risei, Fu, and Yoshi arrived at the summit where Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi were having a battle that was morphing the land they fought on. Ninigi was fighting Kanto on an even skill level until he suddenly stopped. He felt a sharp pain in his left shoulder, and turning around, he noticed a shadowy hooded figure had morphed the black orb into a dagger and plunged it into his back. He pulled off their hood and revealed Himiko's face. "Sister." "Why?" A light in the darkness. Kanto was ready to strike down Ninigi when he got distracted. A blinding flash of light burned their eyes. Hikari rescued Ninigi, and Suzuki came to assist them. "I'm not good with close quarters, but I can support you from afar." Ninigi looked at Hikari and asked if he could borrow his power. He kneeled to Ninigi. Suzuki offered to place a seal, and Ninigi made his contract. "Give me the power to overcome our enemies." Hikari's power manifested on Ninigi's right wrist, forming a crossbow made of light. Risei and Fu attacked Tsukuyomi. Motohide rushed Gonda, but his hammer barely had any effect on him. Kenshiro used Tanbajiri to cut the swords of the Jinai brothers. Kengo came to their aid and activated Sub-Zero, freezing the right arm of Kazuhira and the left leg of Kenshiro. Ninigi shot several light arrows in the sky, and when Kanto and Himiko confronted him, he laughed. He pointed up and said, "You see all those? If you move, they will fall and kill both of you." Kanto and Himiko sat down and accepted capture as opposed to death. Gonda had felled all of his opponents except for Motohide, who went into his trance but still couldn't get the upper hand. Yoshi had Tsukuyomi trapped in a tornado, which Fu amplified and Amaterasu burned. Tsukuyomi emerged only to be surprised by Risei. The warriors had meanwhile all been captured, and the god's army had retreated. V.T ascended to meet again with Amaterasu. Tsukuyomi was furious, and he flew into the sky. "You disgusting humans! I will end this now." Suddenly, the sun was blacked out by a massive boulder slowly falling towards the earth. "Look! It's another moon, my gift to humanity. In 10 minutes, this planet will be destroyed, along with all of humanity." Risei looked at the giant mass slowly falling towards the ground. "That's not good. We have to stop it soon." Yoshi wrapped Tsukuyomi in his chain, and Risei teleported to Tsukuyomi, stabbing him with his scythe. Finally defeated, Tsukuyomi laughed. "The day is yours. But the night belongs to me. You can't stop it. Death will come for you all." Risei slapped the bare, almost human-like skull that was the head of Tsukuyomi and yelled, "I may not be able to kill you, but I will stop you." He sealed Tsukuyomi and looked at the sky. The moon was still falling. An ancestral keepsake. A familiar form then appeared from a mark glowing on the ground. Risei looked at it and shouted out, "Senko Iga." The tall, distinguished man sighed. Risei, you half-blind idiot. The name is Sonoto Iga, Grandmaster Ninja, and the shadowy man in the tree behind you is Kotaro Fuma, my first living ninja. I had him waiting here, observing the war between Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi and feeding me information about it. Yoshi interrupted. I'm sorry, Grand Ninja Iga, but we don't have time for banter. The giant rock is going to kill everyone if we don't stop it. Sonoto responded, how rude and uncalled for. You two interrupt me. I was almost done. Anyway. Now, stopping something like this is easy. Just make the caster of the spell reverse or erase it. Risei picked up Tsukuyomi. Sonoto sighed and asked if they had any ideas on how to do that. Risei suggested trying and break it. Fu advised finding something strong enough to stop it or push up on it. Sonoto looked at Yoshi's right eye. Yoshi, you are a direct descendant of a mana ban, correct? Yoshi nodded. That I was a mana's, correct? Yoshi nodded again, growing impatient. Can you please get to the point? We need a way to stop this thing. You are the rightful heir to the eyes of a mana. I'm certain you can make more use of two than I could one. If you use the power of the eye, you can replace your left eye with it. Just like the old man placed it in your right eye. Yoshi asked what he could do with two that he couldn't with one. Sonoto pointed at the battleground. This is a war zone. The eyes of a mana control organic material. Living or dead bodies. If you lose an arm, you can replace it with a fallen comrade. You can resurrect a corpse with parts from another. Absorb ki from the blood of another. Yoshi gasped. Take the blood from all of these bodies? Sonoto smiled. Your ki will multiply many times over. Yoshi asked Susanoo, what should I do? Susanoo responded, take the ki, and I will give you half of mine. You should be able to do something with that much power. Rado came to them. I can help with injuries. I have mastered healing spells. Motohide Mori arrived as well. He stated he would help in any way he could, and so did Rikimaru. Fu looked at him and asked, hey, your power is based on what you write. Can't you just write down that the moon was dust and have it play out? Rikimaru responded, I'm sorry, but my power is based on my ki. I'm simply not strong enough to do something like that. I think just cracking it would kill me. Fu asked him to use his imagination and find an easier way to stop it meanwhile. He admitted, I have a poor imagination. She nodded. That's why you couldn't beat me. If you do something useful, I'll give you a rematch for your pride. Rikimaru swore to think of something. Yoshi asked Rado to carefully remove Sonoto's left eye and replace it with his left eye. Rado complied, and both men lost sight in their left eyes. Sonoto grabbed the corpse of a Tsukuyomi soldier and brought it in front of Yoshi, who clapped his hand and absorbed some of the corpses before him, healing himself and Sonoto. Their sight restored, they gazed up at impending doom. A crushing task. The massive object was falling to the ground at a terrifyingly quick rate. Yoshi had absorbed an alarming amount of ki from the fallen. He then called upon Susanoo and immediately ascended to a second trance. Lightning crackled in his hands, and a visible wind current swelled around his arms. A ring of tomo drums sparked on his back. He activated Tsunami and formed a water dragon that wrapped around his body. He connected his hands and arms together and blasted a full torrent of water. Powered by raging wind and lightning, the water pressure hit the miniature moon and began to force it upwards. Fu, seeing that success, told Benkei's to extend. She continued to pour ki into it until it eventually hit a point of maximum torsion and slammed into the ground. Gonda placed his hands in the air as if to catch it. Risei spoke to Orochi, Orochi. I need your power. The snake grumbled, why should I give you anything? Risei answered, do you really want the man who beat you, defeated by a mere rock? Orochi agreed to share his power then, merely out of pride. The handles of the Orochi sword turned to snakes and bit Risei. Orochi poured his ki into him, that body now resembling a snake man with 8 arms. Risei marveled at his new form. He rose one of his arms up, and it extended like a serpent, uncoiling. The longer it got, the wider and heavier it got until it smashed into the meteor. Risei then placed all of his arms into the air and did the same. Kanto watched from a distance and cursed his weakness in comparison. Inspired, Motohide talked to his hammer and made an addition to his contract. He smashed a hole in the ground and formed a huge seed into his hands. He poured much ki into the seed, and he planted it on the ground. It started rapidly growing into a massive tree to catch the falling planet. Ninigi made a contract with Hikari and flew to the meteor, beginning to push up on it with his new lightspeed body. Amaterasu watched the scene unfold in horror. It's still not enough. These humans are using our power and their own to stop this falling rock. I can't stop it. The amount of heat I would need to use would destroy the planet and kill my children. Tsukuyomi, you bastard. You knew how powerless my adoration for my children would make me. These humans are right. Monsters like us should not exist here. The power to destroy the world is too dangerous. I must help them. They must save this planet. Amaterasu began sharing her ki with all of VT and the warriors. Rikimaru felt this new power running through his body and began to cry. This ki is wasted on me. I can't help because I'm useless. I joined WMS to become a famous warrior. I got the biggest armor I could find. I even made a contract with an Onika. I was still powerless against a true hero like Lady Fu. Look at her. He could see the pain on Fu's face, pouring all of her ki into Bankei's, pushing up on the meteor and boring a hole into the planet. He could see the sweat on the brows of these heroes, breaking limits and sacrificing their life force. Yoshi, Fu, Risei, Ninigi, and even Motohide. With Amaterasu providing ki and Rado healing fatigue, Rikimaru grabbed his pen, cut the straps on his chest armor and exposed his chest. He wrote "Overdrive" on his skin. An unlikely hero. The heroes all worked together to stop the meteor. Their combined efforts began to slow its fall. Sonoto looked up. It's still going to break the tree. It's massive, but even with Amaterasu and Rado, it won't be enough. However, that man's ki is rising at an amazing level. He looked at Rikimaru and shouted, "You there, what is your plan?" Rikimaru's body was completely covered in black ink. He looked at his hand. So it's over 100 miles in diameter. About 1/20th the size of the moon. It's falling at over 100 miles an hour. I see everything, including the only way to stop it. I need to make it light enough to be supported by the tree. I need to get up there. Sonoto looked around and shouted, "Can someone get Rikimaru to the meteor?" Fu asked Bankei's to shrink back. When the staff was back to its normal size, Fu told Rikimaru to grab hold of it. She told him to hang on and shot him up at incredible speed. She stopped at an arm's reach from the meteor. Rikimaru poured all of his ki into his pen. On the meteor, he wrote, "This object is much lighter. Light enough to land safely and be supported by the tree below." Everything he wrote started to shift into reality. As the assembled heroes began to let up, the much lighter moon was eased down on top of Motohide's massive tree. It had finally stopped. Everyone gasped a sigh of relief. Yoshi and Risei collapsed, barely conscious. Fu began shrinking Bankei's, and Motohide was in the best shape among anyone who participated. Gonda had still not moved. Rado had exhausted most of his ki. Amaterasu was elated. She was smiling. Motohide was impressed by the tree his power had produced. A bright light shined from the meteor as its tree turned to diamond together with the tree. As a single winged figure emerged from within the massive diamond, the meteor and the tree shattered, cut to pieces by the great sword Masamune, the longest katana with a diamond edge. The skillful wielder was obviously Kamikaze. The heroes looked up at the monster in human form and wondered what brought him here. With tactful precision and blinding speed, Kamikaze cut Amaterasu from her right shoulder down to her navel. "You scum, letting humans embarrass us, cleaning up your mess. If I could kill you, I wouldn't hesitate. You are a waste of my ki. I would have been better off making that heater in space myself. Humans are pets at best, not family. You stupid insolent girl, I'm here to collect my tools. I have another test for them. I bought them, and I will use them. I would have them handle you, but I'm sure this lot will handle you the same as your fool brother. I seriously hope to never see you again." Just then, a small fire bullet hit Kamikaze between his eyes. Suzuki looked resolved that he had not missed his shot. However, Kamikaze appeared at his side. Masamune planted in his lungs, piercing him. "I hope you remember this. If ever you decide to challenge me, it will end the same way. You will remain breathless in front of my majesty or Masamune's." Suzuki collapsed, gasping for air. Kamikaze gathered the warriors, minus Rikimaru, who was in very bad shape. Sonoto attempted to recover Suzuki, but it was too late. To give everything, Kamikaze had killed Suzuki. Blood was still streaming from his mouth and sides. Rikimaru wasn't far behind, and Fu had crawled to him. He spoke his last words to her. "Lady Fu, I was finally useful. I'm sorry I joined the warriors. Kamikaze and Kanto said I'd get an Onika, and we would be saving the world. I got the heaviest armor I could find. I wanted to be a hero. Do you think I managed? Will you remember me as a hero or an enemy? I'm sorry I can't have that rematch. But I will tell you. When I went into overdrive, I could see everything briefly. That form is when a human takes all of an Onika's ki into their body. They gain unimaginable power. However, it will kill a user, a one-time contract. Even a fool like me could do it. I hope you succeed. Please don't fail. I want it to all be worth something." Rikimaru exhaled with a very peaceful look on his face. Fu looked at him, and Risei saw her sorrow. He would have traded anything to stop her from feeling like that. He had seen it with the royal guards and Ichiban. With Tomoyo, Kichiyo, and Shigi. After the battle with Onikage, she had been mourning the fallen the entire journey. Each loss cut deeper. Risei hated seeing her in pain and the feeling of being powerless to stop it. He just wanted to bring her home. He imagined a life where they could spend every day with their son. He imagined how splendid it would be, but he realized it wouldn't be possible until their mission was fulfilled. Fu looked at Risei. "It's not doing anyone any favors, feeling sad for me. You are the strong one. Everyone looks at you for strength. I thank you for your concern. It's hard, I was so mean to them. Suzuki annoyed me, so I was rude. In the end, he was the only one brave enough to attack Kamikaze. I only ever insulted Rikimaru. Without him, we would not be alive. They gave everything. They're heroes. And yet again, we have to leave them here." Risei remained silent. Amaterasu had completely healed but had not yet moved. She lay where she fell after Kamikaze attacked. Ninigi rushed to her and asked why she had not gotten up. "We shouldn't exist here. The highest choir of Onika. We shouldn't be allowed to exist. On a whim, I could destroy this world. We all could destroy humanity in a day. Ninigi, please help them rid this world of Onika. Form a contract with me. Promise to use my power to save this world. A new ally." Ninigi didn't know how to react. Zuo arrived in the form of a crane and asked Fu to give him the card from earlier. This could not have helped them. But she may help in your next and most challenging task. Shuren the king and his 6 samurai gods. 7 kami is a monstrous undertaking, so you'll need all the help you can get. I'm calling forth my trump card. She will assist you in this endeavor. Zhuo activated the card, and a pale vision of beauty appeared before them. I'm Marionali. I'm a medicine woman, and I've been healing people across the land while you were fighting to save humanity. Zhuo-sensei told me that someday I would be helping you. I assume that day has come. I'm not able to help in a fight, but I'm an expert in healing and medicine. In her left hand lay a brilliant white staff with firm vines wrapped around it, with a white owl perched on it. The owl opened its eyes and looked at VT. His name is Hachiko. He is also a manifestation of the power of Yakushi. Fu immediately rushed to them. He looks so soft. May I pet him? Mari laughed and nodded in approval. Rise was relieved to see Fu in a better mood and to have gained a new ally. Meanwhile, Zhuo approached Amaterasu and Ninigi. Ninigi was being asked to seal his mother and use her power for the betterment of humanity. But all he had ever known was his mother, and he didn't really want to do that. Zhuo looked at her. I see you don't know what to do. It is a precarious situation. To save your race, you must sacrifice your mother, but I know something you do not. The future hinges on your resolve. Mari and the others approached him. Mari asked what was going on, and Zhuo explained the situation. Oh, you poor thing. I can't imagine how this makes you feel. But I'm sure you will make the right choice. Amaterasu laughed. My foolish boy, what are you waiting for? It's not even a choice. Did you fail to notice that your sister stole Tsukimi? If you are going to beat her, you have to use my power. This way, you can win. You have to. You have to protect yourself and Gonda. If you can, save your sister too. She may be an ungrateful cur, but she is still my daughter. Please Ninigi, save this world. The legendary 6. Ninigi agreed to the contract, and his mother was sealed into a crimson naginata. Kengo was given Hikari, and he gave Yukio Bufu. Sakiyo received Hokage. Fu had Bankes and Garuda. Rise had Orochi, the Great Sword, Amana and Shursui. Yoshi had Tsunami and Susanoo, Gonda had Sannin. Mari had Yakushi. Sonoto had his scroll with all of the ninji. Zhuo looked at this motley crew and smiled. They could do it. When I drew the wild card, I thought there wasn't any hope. 2 humans versus Onikage, impossible. But, they overcame more and more. Tsukuyami, Susanoo, Orochi, and all the others. Rise, the boy, may be bold and a bit dumb, but powerful. Fu truly is Ichiban's daughter. She is willing to do anything to save humanity. Yoshi Amana may be the strongest among those 3. Ninigi and Gonda are demigods, children of Amaterasu. Sonoto Iga, if I gave him enough time, may find a way to seal me. He sure is crafty and skillful for his advanced age. Kengo and the Jinai brothers. What impressive swordsmen. And then my trump card Mari. She and Ninigi could change the future of humanity. Her skills are to be useful indeed. If they can beat Shuren, there is no telling what they could do. Rise approached Zhuo. Old man Chi, do you think we can beat Shuren? Zhuo grabbed his thin white beard. You would have to defeat his 6 samurai first. The word samurai means, he who serves. They are 6 legendary Onika that show fierce loyalty to Shogun Shuren. Each can exterminate a city full of humans in less than an hour. But if you know your enemy, you may stand a chance. Shurnai is massive, like Gonda. He uses earth attacks and wields 2 giant swords that shake the earth and materialize rock. Mizwa is feminine in form, but she is even more dangerous. She can control water and could make waves in a desert. She wields a great sword that can create huge tides. Kajiki is tall with 6 arms. He uses 6 swords that control thunder. Kazan is dangerous, his sword makes explosions. He loves killing humans and treats it as a sport. Zanji is a thin figure, much like Sonoto. However, he wields a sword 3 meters long with ease. He can turn anything he touches to ash with the heat of his weapon. Uriza is small and looks frail, but he is by far the most dangerous. He can travel with his sword at light speed. He can also throw it and is more dangerous when he uses his steel threads. He can cut bone or even stone. But, the true threat is Shuren himself.